passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of John's Untitled Podcast, a partner of MoshPitNation.com. This week's guest comes all the way from down under. It is Matt Young, vocalist of King Parrot, and with me, as always, not that far away, Daniel Terry. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Yeah, I think I'm only like a 6-hour drive away from greatness, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the 6-hour time difference that there was between Matt and I, but I think it was a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I didn't remember. I didn't catch where he was based out of. Was it? It wasn't Melbourne, was it?
I'm totally blanking at this point.
Okay, yeah, but it's a big continent.
Well, I do believe that because I tried getting an interview when I first was starting this podcast over a year ago. I wanted to get Wayne Slats. On their bass player because, and I mentioned it in the interview, he is kind of like a consultant for a very big company out there. Like, you know, he's in, as much as he's in music magazines and so forth, he's actually also in like business things. And, you know,
I mean, he has a job that actually pays.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems that way. I can't really speak to his financials or anything like that, but I remember when he was suggested to me on LinkedIn and I saw this, I was like, holy fuck, I need to have you on the podcast just to talk about the duality of your actual, like, your real job versus your side job, I guess.
Right.
But, I mean, you definitely wouldn't, most people wouldn't think that anyone in a grind band is going to be very, like, I'm not going to say educated would be the word, but I don't think they would expect that person to have a rather, you know, good paying job.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a certain meathead mentality that people throw on people just because they like grind or they play grind in this particular case. And no, man, I mean, some of the people that play grind are some of the smartest people I've met. I mean, look at Barney Greenway from Napalm Death. Have you ever read their lyrics?
No, can't say
it's
that.
It's actually like really fucking like insightful shit. like really well written. It's not like I fucked your mother and then peed on her face, you know, like it's not that. Like it really at all. And in a lot of grindcore bands that I found, the ones that I like the most typically tend to have lyrics that are more either socially aware or just like deep and introspective, and there's more of it out there than you think. Not that deep and introspective equals good business person. There's a certain ruthlessness, I would think, that would come with that. So really, like, doing well in the business world might actually be the most metal thing that you could do. Like, you might have to have that personality.
Right. No, definitely. I don't know. I just, if you've ever seen the King Parrot dudes live or if you've ever talked to any of the guys in the band, I mean, they're all sweethearts, first and foremost. But beyond that, it's just, it's a very interesting group of guys. Like we said in the interview, Squiz likes to play in his underwear. And it's kind of funny because, like, Matt Slats, when he plays, he kind of has, like, a bit of, like, a G.G. Allen thing going on where he just kind of, like, stares off, but, like, you're not sure if he's looking at you or past you, but it's very intense and interesting. They're just a very interesting and eclectic group, and you know, like I said, they're just some of the nicest guys. And, you know, Matt gave me about an hour that we talked, and I think we kind of covered a lot of different shit. I mean, I didn't mean to talk so much about the hardships of being a band from Australia, but, I mean, how can you not? Because, I mean, it really is a unique obstacle, hurdle, whatever you want to say, in and unto itself. I mean, like he's like I kind of asked, is like, you know, do you just assume when you're a band from Australia, you're just like, well, this is as good as it's ever going to get?
Well, yeah, what intrigued me was I was just like, you know, if you want to go play in another town, you're looking at like a 10-hour, 11-hour drive. And I'm like, shit, you know, when I was in a band here in St. Louis, you know, if we got a call from Nashville to go play, we're like, all right, well, we'll be there by rush hour. You know, we'll be there in 5 hours. It's not a big deal, you know.
Right.
But like, yeah, a 10, 11-hour trip just to play in, you know, the next town over is a little That's a little rough, man. And yeah, like geographically, they're kind of fucked, from every angle as far as being able to get out there. Like, and I think they could maybe become a smash hit in Australia, but actually getting over to the U.S. No, I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff, like tour talk. Like how did you get from where you were to where you are now? And it was kind of the same thing with like 36 Crazy Fist coming from Alaska. How they kind of had the same geographical, like they can't drive anywhere, like they have to fly out, to get, I mean, I guess they could drive it, but like, to drive all the way through basically another continent in order to play a show in Cincinnati or it's a little much. And I think with 36 though, they did relocate, and
they went to Oregon.
Yeah, so that makes the most amount of sense,
right?
And but yeah, with them being from Australia and then being signed, on Phil's label, Housecore, it's interesting to see how they're going to be bringing them out here. And I know they've been to the U.S. a few times as well. They're definitely not an unknown band over here, and I think that's why you really brought that up in the talk, because it's just kind of so interesting that they could be that far away from a place where they're actually getting relatively well known.
Right. Well, that and the other thing too is like it seems like every band they were playing with, like, I mean, love him or hate him, I mean, Jesse Leach, sometimes in reading the comments on the dude, a lot of people are like, this dude flip flops and is whatever he wants to be one day, and I'm a punk rock oi dude one day, and next thing you know, I'm all about grindcore, and this day I'm about whatever, and that's fine. I mean, as you're going to see when if you subscribe to our Patreon episode that we're about to do as soon as we're done with this, you're going to find that a lot of people aren't necessarily stuck to one genre. And to me, it's like when seeing Jesse championing, Code Orange when they did a couple shows with them, and then King Parrot, like he was super high on King Parrot, and it's like that's a good look. Like you get a dude who has the influence to put other people onto your band. And, I mean, how is that not a good thing? And, I mean, that's the thing, in and of itself, like, you're on Housecore, which, Phil doesn't sign garbage metal or extreme metal bands. There's always something unique and interesting about every band, whether it be, Childbite or King Parrot at this point, and a lot of the other bands that are on Phil's label. There's always something unique and different unto each band. So when you go see, a Housecore tour, you're not going to get the same thing from any one band, but there is something that is similar enough that carries everything over, and I think that's just the extremes that everyone is willing to push the music. But having someone like Jesse from Killswitch or any of those kinds of people, I think, obviously is going to do nothing but put people onto your music, and hopefully they enjoy it as much as the person that's championing them.
Yeah, I think people are a little hard on Jesse. I mean, who's not musically diverse? You know what I mean? Like even on my other podcast, I mean, as you've seen, John, we kind of go all over the map as far as, I mean, granted, we kind of still keep it metal when we can, but like just metal by itself is still like a huge cornucopia of different sounds and different styles. 1 week it's like AC/DC, the next week it's like, fucking Pig Destroyer. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you can go all over the map. So I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, well, he flip-flops a lot. One day he's into this, and the next day he's into that or whatever. It's like, every day I wake up and want to listen to something different.
Right. No, totally. And speaking of listening to something different, let's get into our conversation with Matt Young and enjoy the smooth, sultry voice of the fine Australian man himself. We'll talk to you later.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, man. Sorry I haven't got my video on. I'm driving my car.
No worries.
Man. How you doing?
Good. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Last few times you've come around, you keep playing out in Detroit.
Yeah, we haven't been there for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've actually played in Detroit itself.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there was I mean, I know there's obviously the date that you guys played here with, what was it, Weed Eater and Chae, because you stayed here at my house, but...
yeah.
Trying to think beyond that, like, I feel like you typically play out in Detroit area, I thought.
We played in Lansing.
Okay,
and we played in Grand Rapids. We played in, and what's the place that Steven Seagal's from? Is that Lansing?
I mean, you said Lansing, but I think you played at Max Bar, unless for some reason you ended up at the Loft down the street. And then,
we played in Flint before as well. And,
yeah.
So we've peppered the area, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of keep it brief. Just I don't know how long they told me that I had. Like they didn't give me a time frame, but typically I try to get about 30 minutes. If that's
no worries, man.
All right, cool. Because I know it's late your time.
No, it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
What the fuck? Your publicist, I thought, said it was almost like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning your time.
No, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here.
Oh, okay. Because I was trying to do one of these with Slats a long time ago, and just Jesus Christ, the time difference was a pain in the ass.
What time is it over there now?
It's gonna be 7 o'clock here, p.m.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, great, man. Well, I've got a bit of a drive ahead of me, man, so I've got time.
All right. Well, I have the pleasure this early evening on a Friday, the last day of August, talking with Mr. Matt Young of King Parrot. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Just having a good start to the day, actually, and looking forward to coming over to the States on. I think we leave on Tuesday morning.
I gotta say, how long of a flight is it for you all to get over here?
So there's a direct flight now from Melbourne to Los Angeles, which is I think it's about 11 or 12 hours, something like that. Yeah, and then we're flying down to New Orleans to start the tour. So we have a layover for a couple of hours, and then it's 3 or 4 hours I think from LA to New Orleans. So yeah.
I mean, I've done a handful of flights from like here in Michigan over to the coasts and so forth, and 4 to 5 hours of smelling people's farts and baby shits and stuff like that, and I'm pretty much ready to get out of that little cylindrical tube. I can't imagine like another 7 or 8 hours on top of that.
Yeah, man, it's the way they do it is you usually leave. I think our flight leaves at about 11 o'clock or something, and then you have your lunch, you watch a movie or something, you have some dinner, then it starts getting dark, and then by the time you fall asleep, you wake up and you arrive at the same time as you left.
It's fucking weird.
That's how it goes.
How bad is the jet lag? Because one of the things I've heard from other podcasts, and I think like Dio was especially notorious for this in interviews I've heard with people who used to hang out with Dio, is when you have the bad jet lag, instead of falling asleep like your body wants to, I guess the trick is you just power through it and try to stay up until the normal bedtime wherever it is you're at.
Yeah, that's what we try and do usually, but I find the jet lag on the way over isn't that bad. It's more on the way home. For some reason, I don't know, I guess because you kind of, when you're on the way over, you looking forward to doing some shows and playing and stuff, and then on the way back, it's sort of like it's over, and you kind of, post-tour depression kicks in, and you're sort of, end up in bed for like 3 or 4 days, trying to catch up on sleep and stuff. So, yeah, that's sort of usually how it works for me. I'm not too bad on the way over, really.
Something that, also is kind of interesting, and I don't remember if we talked about this when you guys stayed here, because my wife at the time was watching that terrible Real Housewives of Melbourne, and it had like the wife of the drummer from Silverchair in it, and that was the only reason I was slightly interested in watching it, because I was like, oh, maybe they'll have Silverchair stuff going on, but no, that dude's just a little bitch.
Yeah, they don't play much anymore.
But something that was kind of interesting to me, and like I said, I was trying to remember if I actually asked you this, was, do you get a lot of people who just assume that living out in Australia, it's like the best because it's where everyone always wants to go on a vacation at some point in their lives?
I don't know. I think it's the thing that I've found the most with people that aren't from Australia is that they have this sort of weird perception that it's just like snakes and spiders and all this dangerous stuff. Because, I mean, literally, you don't really see anything else about Australia on, it's not like Australia features prominently on news in America or anything like that, or in Europe or anywhere really. But when you do see it, it's like someone like Steve Irwin or, Crocodile Dundee. So people think it's like, snakes and dangerous stuff and all that, when really, it's just sort of, it's just, obviously the landscape and everything is a little bit unique and different to anywhere else in the world, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same. It's not too bad, and there's not that many snakes and spiders and stuff. If you want to look for them and go out to the places where they actually are, then you'll find them. But it's not the perception. I've had so many people from America say, "Oh man, I'm never going to Australia. No way." And it's like, yeah, okay. All right, we're quite happy down here. It's fine. You do what you got to do. But yeah. But no, it's actually a really good place to live.
Something that's been interesting for me, being a fan of a lot of music, and especially in the day and age now with the internet being what it is, and being able to basically have a boundaryless area to be able to find music. Like, I remember a handful of years ago finding this band, Dream on Dreamer. I think they're not from Melbourne. I'm trying to remember exactly where they're from over there.
I've heard of them. I know. I've heard the name. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, I remember listening to it and being like, wow, this sounds like as good or better than some of the contemporary like metalcore that was coming out. And so I just assumed they were probably getting a lot of offers to, tour Europe, tour the States intermittently and so forth. And it's been pleasantly surprising to see that they basically don't ever leave the coast of Australia. Like, I think they've done maybe one small European tour over the last handful of years. But, it's something that seeing Marcel, their singer, just constantly talking about how hard it is to actually get out of Australia as a band, especially a heavier band. And, it kind of made me start thinking when I knew we were going to do this conversation of just, how hard is it, as a band, when you start knowing that potentially, like, the furthest you're ever really going to go is where you live, like the area that you live in?
Yeah. I mean, and then with Australia as well, it's like if you want to go and play somewhere else, like in a different city, if you want to go and play like from Melbourne to Sydney, that's, it's probably about a 10-hour drive.
Right.
An hour and a bit flight. And then, Brisbane's twice that.
Yeah.
And then, Adelaide's the same, and Adelaide's not even a big city really, like in the grand scheme of things. And then Perth is like right on the other side of the country, so it's like, going from Miami to LA, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tough place to tour, man. But it's also I think I've found it for us. It's been a really good sort of testing ground, because we've done a lot of tours in the US and Europe, and we really learned how to tour in Australia before we got over to the other places and cut our teeth out there as well. So it's an amazing country to tour, and we recently actually had the guys from Childbite out in Australia, and we did this massive East Coast tour with them. We went all the way up to Cairns, which is right up the north end of Australia. It's almost Indonesia. and we did like 24 shows in a month, which is basically unheard of, really, like for bands like King Parrot or Childbite. You know what I mean? It's not something that bands like us would ever try and do. But it went so well, man. It was amazing. It was just really cool, and obviously we've got a bit of a connection with Michigan and the Childbite guys, who have been really great friends of ours for many years now. And if they were going to come out and do it, we wanted to show them everything. So and I think they got that experience. They got the Melbourne. Where Melbourne's kind of hipster city and cool, and lots of music, and they got a bit of that, and they got heaps of the coast, and they got to see far north Queensland and, Sydney and the beaches up along the central New South Wales coast as well. So that was really, really cool. But yeah, I guess, there is plenty of Australian bands. Getting back to your original question, there's plenty of Australian bands that don't actually, leave. They don't really have to.
Right.
It all depends what kind of music you're playing too, I guess.
Is there
a lot of?
I'm sorry.
Go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, is there much of a scene really out there, like in the different pockets?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, Melbourne is definitely the musical capital of. Where we're from is definitely the musical capital of Australia, and there's a huge punk scene. There's a huge metal scene. There's shows on pretty much every night of the week.
Oh wow.
So you can go and see something, and lots of bands are touring out here now. Like even the touring market is probably a little bit saturated, but people keep going out to shows, and I guess that's the one good thing for us musos is that they can't take that live experience away from us. I'm sure they'll find some way in the future, but people still love going out and seeing bands and buying merch, so that's great. But there's a really good scene in Australia. Absolutely, it's amazing, and it's just another little thing. It's a world unto itself, and there's only a very small handful of bands that actually get the opportunity to go overseas and tour. And I guess that was one of our things from the beginning was with King Parrot, is that we play this sort of style of music, which is kind of grindcore, kind of thrash, kind of, it's got some punk influences in there as well. And that for us, that was an amalgamation of a lot of bands that we were influenced by from the Australian scene back when we were sort of coming up through the 90s and the early 2000s, and we wanted to make a band that had a sound that was sort of had that distinct Australian flavour to it, but also a pretty intense energy, and try and tour that overseas. That was one of our goals, was to try and get it out there to the international market, because there was a lot of bands that we absolutely loved and adored, but they never actually made it out of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of them did, but the one band that I'm thinking of in particular is a band called Damaged, who are just a phenomenal band. And we actually had their drummer playing for us for a little while.
Okay.
Years ago. If you ever get the chance to check them out, man, they were a really special band, but they never actually got the opportunity to leave Australia. So that was sort of one of our things, was like, man, let's do a band that's ours, that's unique, that's influenced by this Aussie stuff, as well as other stuff, but it's really got this heavy Aussie influence, and let's try and take that out to the world scene and see what we can do with it, because we felt like those bands that we loved back in the 90s and stuff in the early 2000s were just as good as any bands getting around. It's just the world was a harder place to tour even back then. It's still hard to tour, but
right.
Even back then it was even harder, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of wondered, with the sort of separation of where you guys are geographically from the rest of the world as far as touring goes, do you feel like it creates a shorter album cycle? Because you're not able to tour in the traditional sense like a lot of other bands, where it's like, oh, we have 2 years of us, writing supporting a record after writing it, and then touring all over for a year and a half or so, and then going back in to do another record. Do you think that that's a thing, or is that just kind of a weird thing maybe I thought of just because of the geographical location of where you guys are being cut off?
I think we've tried to do an album every couple of years since we sort of started, and then we've had tours. We've probably toured more in the US and Canada than we have in Europe, but I guess it just depends on the opportunities that arise. We're probably not a bona fide headlining band in the US or Europe. So, maybe down the track that'll change. That'll be great if it did, because it would give us a little bit more scope as to what we could actually do. I mean, we could probably play really small clubs if we headlined and had some other cool, smaller bands with us. But, we've kind of been at the liberty of bigger bands that we've had the opportunity to tour with. And obviously being on Housecore Records, we've toured a bunch with with Phil's bands like Down and Superjoint, and this one coming up with the Illegals and Child Bite. We've obviously done a bunch of stuff with, but we've also had the opportunity to tour with bands like Soulfly and Obituary and Exodus and Prong and Weed Eater, Cattle Decapitation, Voivod. So yeah, we've had some varied experiences, but I guess it's just more about booking agents and having the planets aligning so that when your album comes out, you can have these opportunities to go on tour. And obviously there's tours happening all the time, but we just do what we do. We try and stay productive, try and stay active, and we like to play a lot in Australia too. We've got a really good fan base. We are probably a headlining band in Australia, so we can sort of more dictate where we play in Australia and where and when.
Right.
And we can also play in some strange, smaller places that most international bands would never go and see. And that's what we wanted to take Child Bite to go and do on this last tour that we did with them, was to take them to all these small little towns where the shows are a little bit smaller and stuff, but the people don't get that many shows coming through there. So when a band does come through on a tour or whatnot, they come and check it out, and they really enjoy it and appreciate it. So even having an American band go to some of those places that we went to was quite a treat for them.
I kind of wonder with Soundwave Festival being gone now, it seemed like Soundwave was had a very big impact on your musical scene out there, and that's just from an outsider's perspective, because it seemingly mixed a lot of your local to the continent or whatever, the country, to on a bigger scale like that, while playing along with some of the bigger bands everywhere else. And it kind of makes me wonder, from just seeing the variety, because it seems like metal and all the metal punk, whatever you want to call it, the fringe kind of genres that aren't pop music, it seems like a festival like that, would put you guys with someone like maybe a Parkway Drive or things like that, where that festival seemed to very much support any of its own kind as far as local to the area. And I kind of wonder, have you noticed that without it being there, maybe kind of a decline in a little bit of the reach that some of the bands that maybe are ascending the ranks are able to get because of it not being there?
So with Soundwave Festival, we were lucky enough to do it twice, toured around Australia. But the thing, maybe the misconception that you got there is that they put a lot of Australian bands on, and the fact of the matter is that they didn't actually put that many Australian bands on it.
Okay.
There wasn't, I think the years when we did it, they maybe had one local band play from each city, and then there was maybe 4 or 5 Australian bands doing the whole tour. But that festival was massive, it had upwards of 50 bands, 50 or 60 bands. Yeah. And they were mostly international bands. And, whether or not that was, we're lucky and grateful that we got the opportunity to do it. And it really helped us open up our audience in Australia, that's for sure. Don't get me wrong, it was an amazing experience for us. But, maybe a misconception there overseas and stuff is that more Australian bands played it, but they actually didn't. Maybe the top few bands that in Australia got the opportunity, but it wasn't really like that. It was an amazing festival though, and it just sort of got to a point where I think it was so amazing those last few years, and then the very last one, they just tried to push it again, and it just kind of didn't. It just kind of flopped, and it sort of took that last one just to kind of kill it off, which was a real shame. But in the wake of that, there's been a whole bunch of festivals that have just popped up now, and Download Festival is here now. Yeah. And we played Download. It was this year. It was in March. Yeah. So we played a Download Festival. That was the first one that they had, and it went really, really well. It was amazing. It went so well. And they're doing it again in Melbourne and Sydney next year. They're going to expand it again a little bit, and they're just trying to get something established again. It's not as crazy as what Soundwave was.
Right.
A little bit more, just a bit more, well set out, well thought out, obviously run by people that have huge experience in doing festivals all around the world. So yeah, it was a really great one to be involved with, and the first one, it was killer. But yeah, there's a few others that have popped up now as well, and there was another one that was just announced the other day, which it's really huge as well. I think the Offspring are playing, and a whole bunch of other bands. Not so many metal bands, but more sort of like punk bands and stuff. And there's another thing called Unify Festival, which is more aimed at the sort of younger demographic, the sort of 15 to 25.
Right.
With, bands like Parkway Drive and Amity Affliction and stuff like that. We have played that as well, but it's not necessarily our audience. You know what I mean? But I mean, some of it crosses over. But yeah, we're not. King Parrot isn't exactly huge with the emo hardcore kids.
Well, actually, it is kind of funny you say that, because I mean, something that I thought was pretty cool, and you mentioned some of the bands that you've had the privilege of opening up for and touring with. And one of the interesting things, because it came shortly after you were on that Weed Eater tour that came through here in GR, was, Jesse Leach becoming a very big sounding board for being a fan for you guys and telling people to check you out. And then it kind of seemed like a lot of other people, of that kind of ilk and that scene, that metalcore kind of scene or whatever, also were singing your praises. And it's like, it's got to be pretty cool when someone that's, admittedly more mainstream than you, is kind of like, hey man, like, check out this kind of underground band. Like, they're really awesome. Like, I think they should deserve your attention.
Oh yeah, man. It's been, when we first started out this band, we had no intention of other than just sort of mucking around in a jam room in Melbourne and just making some grindcore. And that was pretty much the intention. That was it. But then as we got going, things started to pick up, and we started to get a name for ourselves in the Melbourne scene. And then we got the opportunity to do a national tour where we played with some of the bigger Aussie metal bands and stuff. And by that stage, we were really honing our live performance, and it was just really, we were kind of, for lack of a better term, we would kind of had this desperation about us that we were like, we are going to be the nastiest band you've ever seen, and we did, and we made that reputation for ourselves just by bringing that energy and humor to the show. Right. And people kind of were like, what the hell is this? And it was just a bit different to what was going on in the scene. And yeah, so like, and then we've had the element of our there's obviously the music, and then there's the music videos. So and the music videos have always been lots of fun for us to make, and that's really helped us sort of branch out and reach a broader audience as well.
It's funny you bring that up, the music videos and the music. I have a co-host, but unfortunately he has to work right now, so he wasn't able to be on this chat. But I asked him if he wanted me to ask you something. That's a very redundant sentence, but he actually wanted me to ask you, do you make the music videos with a comedic angle because you feel like that people can't have serious subject matter in your music? Well, let me make sure I'm asking that right. If the comedic angle of their videos ever makes them feel like they can't have serious subject matter in the music. There we go.
No, we just do whatever we want. We just do whatever we feel like doing, and it's just another outlet for us to be creative and explore stupid ideas and fun, and I think the whole idea of making a music video is fun for us. Right. And that's sort of definitely part of our angle. The live show is its own thing, and it's sort of probably a bit more intense than, but I think that's just sort of what we go for. It's sort of intense, and it's sort of funny and a bit lewd and a bit weird, and that's sort of, they're all the elements of music that we like and that we want to incorporate into what our band is. So we kind of don't, as long as it fits those kind of categories, there's no actual rules around it. As long as it's you know, as long as it's kind of absurd, we're down with it.
I think I blew his mind when I told him what Slats' actual job is.
Yeah.
Because like I was like, well, I've been wanting to get Slats on for a while to talk about his actual day job in juxtaposition against what he does in this band and how you see him if you see him at a show. And he was like, oh, what does he do? I was like, he's a consultant for a really big company. And he goes, what? And I go, oh yeah, he's in like business magazines over there. Like I follow him on LinkedIn. He goes, on LinkedIn? I go, yeah, we're friends on LinkedIn. And he goes, what the fuck? And I go, yeah, you don't expect to find someone in a band on LinkedIn for their real profession, like their real big boy job. And I go, but when I learned that, it somehow seemingly made more sense, the band and everything about it, because I was like, well, yeah, of course you want to do something like this when your day job is so like cookie cutter by the numbers and all that kind of shit. It's like, well, of course you'd want to let loose and just be completely on the other side of things.
Yeah, man. Slats is an intelligent guy, you know, and he's very talented, and he's very talented not only as a musician but obviously also as an actor, and you know, he does lots of different. He does lots of different stuff over here, you know. Like he's been in like commercials and lots of different things, you know. And I think, you know, King Parrot's been a really good vehicle for him to be able to explore everything that he's good at,
right?
And you know, including, you know, as well as all this acting stuff. And we just kind of stumbled across it, you know. It wasn't even by design, that's for sure. It was just more of a thing when we did that shit on the Liver video, where we just had this idea and it came up and it worked out and it went really, really well. So and then we've just sort of kept going from there, and now we've kind of got this body of work of videos, which is really cool, and you know, something that we can always look back on and go and keep adding to as well as the band progresses. But you know, it's like, oh, you know, people go, oh, you know, check out King Parrot. You got to see their videos. You know, it's like that's a great thing for us, and we love doing that. We love being creative in other ways other than just music, because, you know, it's life. You know, it's so many different elements to everything, and we love being creative. And it's not, obviously, Slats and I really love that part of it. It's not necessarily the other guys in the band's part, but myself and Slats.
If Squiz doesn't end up becoming an underwear model as a result of his time in King Parrot, then I feel like that's an opportunity missed.
Yeah, no, Squiz has actually come into his own a little bit with it. He was a bit shy at the start, but I think when we did that Home Is Where the Gutter Is video, where he was the homeless guy,
right?
He really, I thought he did a really good job on that. It was awesome. I was really proud of the way that he sort of took to it, because he was really quite nervous, and we were like, man, we're going to make you the main guy in this one. You got to fucking shine, dude. And he did. He did really well. So, yeah, that was heaps of fun, that video. But yeah, like going back to what you were saying before, I was like, those things, just those little points of difference, I think that's probably what's endeared us to, you know, to guys like, you know, Jesse Leach and, you know, Randy Blythe and Max Cavalera and Phil Anselmo and guys like that have all been massive supporters of our band. You know, it's sort of it's just been bizarre that they that guys like that would, you know, give a shit about a grindcore band from Melbourne, you know. And give us the opportunities that, you know, they've given us as well.
So I'm going to kind of ask this one question. It's something I've thought of for a while, even when I was trying to do the thing with Slats, and I kind of wanted to have a more serious convo with him initially. And if you don't want to answer this, I totally understand, but it's just something, like I said, I've been sitting on for a while and just thinking, you know, as someone who listens to a lot of industry side podcasts, you know, with band managers and so forth, there's a lot of interesting things that get brought up that, you know, I don't know if we as fans think of, you know, necessarily affecting a band, affecting the tour, affecting the bottom line, basically. And something that was very interesting to me is, and I'm not going to go into, obviously, the details of the whole thing with Phil from a while ago, but the thing about that interested me was there ever a point where, as a person on his label being associated with him as a business, that you were worried that it was going to affect your business at that point?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. When it all happened and the shitstorm kind of happened, we were, obviously, first thing we did was reach out to them and just say, hey, are you guys okay? Because they're really, really good friends of ours.
Right.
They've been huge supporters of our band and hugely generous to us and given us so many opportunities. So when I saw it, I was just like, holy shit, this is not good. This is really bad.
Yeah.
This is really bad. And then I stood back and I looked at it and I went, well, he's clearly off his face. He's clearly wasted. He's clearly something stupid. Is my friend okay?
Right.
And that, and then obviously he had a lot of shit going on with all that. But yeah, I think everyone makes mistakes and everyone stuffs up, and hearing him apologize and explain what happened and how it sort of happened and how it was, obviously he said what he said and there's no mistake in what he said, but
right.
In the context of what was going on and all that, and I don't, I'm not apologizing or excusing it or whatever, it was, you just wouldn't say something like that, but in the context of what was happening and what was happening on the night and what, I was like, okay, you were really wasted and you said something really, really stupid. And he apologized for it. He owned it. And I believe that he's made some significant changes to his life now that he's living his amends for it.
Right.
And I think that's huge. That's huge. And, yeah, I guess for us it was, we're sort of not really on the same sort of scale in terms of popularity.
Right.
But, we've definitely had lots of questions about it and people asking us about it and all that sort of stuff. But, I always just try and, he has apologized. He said he was deeply sorry for what he said. He was taken out of context and he was blind drunk.
Right.
I don't think as far as I know, he doesn't drink anymore. So that's a huge amends to make. And I would say if he wasn't drunk when all that shit happened, that he probably wouldn't have said that.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a real touchy one, but it was a big mistake, but I think he's apologized and he's living his amends, which is to me, as someone who is actually in recovery myself, and doesn't drink or do drugs, that's where you get your personal growth from. If you can own that shit and say, yeah, I fucked up and I'm sorry, I apologize. That's where the growth is, and I think Phil's productivity and his commitment to the music scene and the heavy scene and the supporting bands, like how many bands has that guy given breaks to?
Jesus Christ.
Like how many, like bands like Crowbar and I Hate God, and even like, from back in the Pantera days, he's been a massive supporter of Ghost.
Especially.
From, like, look at Ghost now. Like he was one of the first people championing that band. So many bands, and including my band as well. He's really, people listen to what he says, and Phil likes it. People listen to it.
Right.
It's a fact. So I think about all the good stuff that he's done, and all the positive stuff that he's done, and all the amazing things that he's done. Sure, there's been heaps of fuck ups, heaps of mistakes, but he's not like a sports person. He's in a metal band. Of course he's going to fuck up.
Yeah.
But he the guy that I know is very, very supportive, very generous, you know, loves to give people opportunities, loves to give people chances to try and make a go of this whole music industry thing. And you can only sort of keep what you've got and the legacy that you've built by giving it away to others. And he's done that tenfold. And I'll always respect and admire him for that.
Yeah, like I said, I've never asked anyone that question. There's been a handful of people I probably could have, but to me, it's just in the way of the being in a business with him. It's like, I don't know, like, to me, like, that's just the weird fucked up thing sometimes, like, I always think of, like, the weird outside variable that people don't think about. And so to me, it was like, when that happened, I was like, well, shit, what's going on with his label? What's going on with the bands that are on his label? Are the bands getting any backlash? Like, just all this weird shit where I was like, it almost, I wasn't even focused at the blast point, almost, like, where the impact was. It was all the residuals, the ripple effect kind of, where I was like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's like, that's kind of a weird thing for me to even do as a person, but it's just where my mind goes, where it's like, man, if I were in a band, I'd be like, fuck, are people going to be mad at us? And are people maybe going to come to our shows and be like, fuck your label and fuck these things? Because, I mean, people find, I mean, as Randy is on Jamie Josta's podcast, and Randy is the vocalist on the jingle for it, but what's the outrage of the day? And it's like, I can see people being like, man, fuck King Parrot, they're on Housecore Records, I don't like them anymore. And it's like, okay, like, that has nothing to do with our actual music or us as the people, but okay, like, I guess that's where we're at.
I think that's more a commentary of where that person's at in their life, and if they can't see that, and you know, like, people want to do that, people want to live like that, that's up to them. But I know personally that I can't live like that. That's not how if I live like that, I end up very unwell. You know, and that's been my experience. So it's important for me to not be like that at all, and, you know, have a bit of forgiveness and have a bit of understanding. And, you know, we got slammed by this one guy from this shit band in Melbourne who made this YouTube video and was carrying on about the whole thing, and he absolutely slammed us and wanted us to respond. And I was like, you know what, fuck you, man, who are you? You're just trying to, you know. And coincidentally, he had a single launch or a tour going on that weekend, and I was just like, and he's like, I want to know about King Parrot, think about this, and all this sort of shit. And people started bringing it to our attention, and I was just like, fuck this guy. Like, I don't have to answer to this guy. Like, I didn't fucking say it.
You know? Yeah, no, and I mean, that's kind of the weird thing for me too, is like I said, I don't think, maybe it's just because I've been a manager and I've had to deal with, like, something like, oh, someone in the parking lot said something and I don't like it, so I'm going to come complain to you. And it's like, I'm sorry, the parking lot's not my area. I can't control a non-employee and what they tell you or say to you. Like, I'm sorry. But I think maybe because of that, I'm able to kind of go completely away from the situation and think about how maybe it affects other people. And it's just like, and you know, that was the interesting thing too, is when coming up with it, it's like, does it even affect you? Because I don't know. Maybe people don't. I would assume there's a lot of people who don't know that Phil has a label and that has bands on it. So I don't know. But you're the first person I've been able to talk to that's actually on the label and kind of. I mean, I know, like I said, I know the incident happened over a year or so ago, but it's just been one that I've thought of, and it's like, this is the first opportunity I've really ever had to ask anyone and you know, about it. And, you know, I just want to take a split second to say thank you for at least answering the question. Because, I mean, like I said, as a fan and as someone who wonders, it's like that I'm in a unique position to actually ask somebody a question that I've wanted to know the answer to for a while. And you totally could have just blown it off and been like, fuck you. Like, no, I'm not touching that.
Well, yeah, probably would have been easier. But, you know, I guess, you know, first and foremost, you know, like, Phil's been, a friend and a supporter and someone that, you know, the first time I met him, he grabbed me and he was a fan of our band. Right. You know, it was like, it didn't matter about, it was a real trip. There was that Soundwave actually. And, you know, we were sort of that was sort of, we hadn't played overseas yet or anything like that. We were just getting our legs, and we were playing that first sound wave that we did, and we had played with I Hate God before, and I met Jimmy Bower and
Right.
Mike and stuff, and they were kind of like, "Oh, you guys are nuts," and we were like, "Yeah, well, yeah, I guess." And but I think Jimmy and Mike had passed on our details to Phil, and I'd had some emails with him and stuff, and I'd sent him a T-shirt and stuff. And when we got to Soundwave, Phil was wearing our T-shirt, and he was super excited to meet us, and I was like, dude, I've been a huge fan of yours for a long, long, long time, since I was a little kid, and then that day, like, the next thing we knew, like a couple of hours later, we were up on stage with Down jamming in front of like 10 or 20,000 people, and they're throwing us their guitars, and we were jamming, playing Bury Me in Smoke with them. It was like, what the hell's going on here? And then, yeah, since there, I guess, going back and forth from the States, and then we spent a lot of time with them, and obviously signed to Housecore. We've recorded out there now as well. And yeah, it's like he's a big part of, our story, and the fact that we've been able to sort of actually even have a business and have a brand, a band, like, and all that sort of stuff in the US. And, obviously there's hardcore followers of Housecore Records and stuff all over the world. So that has been, something that we've been given by him, like we now have a fan base all around the world because of our affiliation with him, as well as the music, I would like to think as well. But he's definitely helped us spread our wings a lot.
So, I mean,
pardon the pun.
Speaking of, touring with Phil, you guys are getting ready to embark on the upcoming Illegals tour. And that's going to culminate in a stop at Berserker Fest. Basically, that was the whole reason I wanted to have you guys on and some other people from the festival to kind of do pre-coverage for the Berserker Fest. I think this is your second time playing it?
This is our first time playing it, man. Yeah, we've never done it. Yeah, but we're really stoked. And obviously Sean from Childbite is a really good friend of mine. And, yeah, he's been like, oh, man, you got to do Berserker Fest. And it just hasn't happened. And then this year it was like, okay, it's happening now. Unreal. Great. Brilliant. So, yeah.
So I gotta say, I will be severely disappointed if the three-headed beast doesn't happen during the illegal set.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Rocktopus.
Oh, is that? See, I thought when I called it the three-headed beast or whatever, I was like, oh, at least I gave it a name. I didn't know it had an actual name.
Yeah, it's the Rocktopus.
That is even... You know what? Sean is a graphic designer. I should text him when we're done and be like, if you don't have Rocktopus shirts at Berserker Fest, you fucked up.
Yeah, man. Oh, we could definitely do something like that. I'm sure. I'm always up for some shenanigans.
Oh man, that was it. I just saw that video get posted by because a friend of mine on Facebook posts like random bullshit off of the internet, like sort of like memes, basically. But the funny thing is he posted the video of the three of you doing that. I don't remember where it was from because a bunch of videos were posted from that tour. And I think Sean got tagged in it. And then I was just like, I go, if this doesn't happen at Berserker Fest, I will be severely disappointed.
Hopefully, man. Yeah, I'm always up for it. So, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I think that was with Superjoint maybe a year or two ago.
Yep, that was a Superjoint tour. That's right.
Yeah.
So kind of in wrapping up, I mean, you got Berserker Fest, you got this tour with Phil and the Illegals coming up. I know it's not been a long time since Ugly Produce came out, but are you already starting to work on what potentially could be the next EP or the next album for you guys?
Yeah, we've pretty much got half of the album written, and I think after we do this tour, we're going to spend a little bit of time. We're hanging back in the States for another week and a half, 2 weeks, and we're going to be in the studio just writing and recording our ideas and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we will have basically the skeleton of an album by the time we leave the States mid-October. So I should have everything at least demoed and done, rough. So Yeah, there's lots of ideas. We've been throwing lots of ideas around. There's lots of cool songs that we've got that will shape the next album. So, but we've still got a little bit of work to do. But yeah, maybe next year or the year after. I think we're just going to take our time a little bit with this next one, and we banged out 3 albums in pretty sort of rapid succession.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every couple of years and just toured nonstop. But I think we're getting a little bit pickier, I guess, maybe with the tours that we're doing, and I'm not doing it as much, but just doing it a little bit, probably maybe a little bit smarter, I suppose, so that when we do it, that they're really good ones. And obviously, any opportunity that we get to tour with like housecore stuff is always a really great opportunity. And you know, the thing is, we have a great following in Australia, and we can play really good shows here and do all that stuff as well. And yeah, I guess, you know, going back to all that business stuff as well, it's like it's hard enough playing grindcore just to do it, but let alone run it as a business that makes a profit and that pays for everyone to do everything. That's been super challenging for us. And you know, when you're on the other side, like if we were in America, it'd probably be a bit easier with the touring aspect, because you can play in so many cities and so many places, but it's not quite like that in Australia. But we still have heaps of fun. We still love doing it. But I guess we're not, you know, we don't feel the need to be on the road for 6 to 9 months of the year anymore. It's sort of been like, maybe that's, it's really helped us get our name out there on an international kind of level. But yeah, I think we're just sort of pulling back and just doing the really good tours, trying to do the really good stuff, and just sort of being a little bit more strategic and planning it. Maybe a little bit, yeah. Not to say that we weren't before, because we had to be to even get it to that point to begin with. But yeah, we just sort of, I've just felt like it's just felt like the right thing to do. Just pull back just a little bit, and let's just try and iron out a few creases here and there, and get this thing sort of move. You know, we've put so much work into it already, so it's like, let's just make sure our next step, the next record and everything is the best thing that we do, and give ourselves the best chance to make a record that we're really, really super proud of. Not to say that we're not proud of the other ones, but this next one is I've got this feeling about it that it's going to be really good, and it's going to be a big step in the right direction for us. So I just want to make sure that when we do that it's we do it right. You know, we work with the right people, and we get the right things in place to give ourselves the best chance of keeping this going forward, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to catching you guys, like I said, at Berserker Fest. Hopefully, I think I'm going to try to do some interviews while I'm there. So maybe I'll get to actually talk to Phil. I don't know. That's my goal. That is like the goal of Berserker Fest is to just catch as many sets as I can from everybody, and then hopefully get Phil and some other sweet bands on to do mini chats real quick.
Maybe you could talk to Phil and Slats together. That would be pretty funny.
Actually, you know, I was thinking, I was going to pose this to you. I actually have it written down as like a quick note that I was like, it'd be fun to get the three-headed beast, as I was calling it, on to do a quick chat, because I mean, it's like the three of you, you know, all talking, and like I could ask you probably collectively 6 questions each, but I'm getting like, you know, a shitload of answers between the 3 of you.
Yeah.
And plus, you guys have all have toured together quite a bit. That it's like, I'm sure even if I were to come up with very generic questions to ask you, that you guys would all be able to be like, oh, well, remember that one time we were on this tour and blah 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 happened, and it'd be like, okay, like it's almost like I ask you an easy question, and the 3 of you probably would just go off and give me glorious content to listen to. So I've been kind of thinking about doing that and prosing that, but it's just a matter of, you know, making sure that you would even want to do another one of these, or anybody in the band for that matter. But
I'm down with it, man. I'm down for it.
Very excited to see you guys hope on this tour coming up with Phil and the Illegals, Philip H Anselmo and the Illegals, and playing at Berserker Fest in Detroit. A lot of great bands: Battle Cross, Phil and the Illegals, Child Bite. Actually, a band I am really looking forward to seeing is Sean's new project with Jeff Tuttle from Ex Dillinger Escape Plan. Apparently, they started a new grind project that I will probably shit my pants over.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's Shock Narcotic, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And I always like to end these episodes with a song. So what would you like me to play the episode out to? And then where can people find you and or the band online?
KingParrot.net or Facebook. That's where we're at. And you want me to pick a song?
Yep. And by the way, it doesn't have to be one of yours. It can be just something maybe you've been jamming the last couple of days where you're like, fuck, this is a great song.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, gee, man, you're putting me on the spot now. Well, I don't know if you've got any... Oh, man.
Basically, if it can be found on YouTube, I'm good.
Hey, play me some Poison Idea, man. Play me Alan's on Fire. I like that song.
Okay. Well, thank you again for taking the time to do this. Safe travels on your flight over here to the States. And for anybody who is listening to this, catch King Parrot out with Philip H Anselmo and the Illegals. And if you are anywhere in the Midwest, please come out to Berserker Fest. It's basically an all-day festival that will blow your mind, full of how awesome the music is. You're going to find a new band that you love. And if you've, for some reason, are listening to this and have never heard King Parrot, well, fix that. And again, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to hanging out in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, man. We appreciate your support. Cheers.
Cheers. So that was my chat with Matt Young, vocalist for King Parrot. Dan, what did you think of that conversation, since sadly you couldn't be a part of it?
Dude, it was a pretty sexy conversation, man.
I know, I kept getting lulled in by that Australian accent.
Oh my god, it's just like so rugged and manly. Anyway, so yeah, no, I thought it was cool. Definitely a lot of tour talk. I really liked your question about, what happened with Phil and the Dime Bash and all that stuff, and his response was very much like, yeah, I was worried about it, but I was more worried about Phil.
Yeah.
As a person, and I thought that was a pretty decent thing to say, for sure.
Well, I think the hard thing was, and we already posted at the time of this episode airing, we already posted the chat with Joey Gonzalez of Superjoint Ritual, as well as Philip H Anselmo and the Illegals. And I asked him the same thing, but I gave you these interviews out of order. I actually did this interview first, and as you heard me say in the Joey episode, I had referenced the conversation with Matt a couple of times. And it's one of those things to me, like I said, some people can and will probably think I'm just trying to bait people into a hot button issue to try to get listens and all that kind of shit. But like I said, you can't listen to some of these podcasts on, band management, managemental being one of them. And it's hard to listen to some of these behind the scenes podcasts and stuff like that, where you talk about the business side of the music business and not start thinking about how this person, because what the thing with Phil is, here's a man going on saying something, and now the whole rock metal music industry is deciding how they feel about this person who also runs a label. So how does that not affect the roster of musicians on his label? How does that not affect the person that is in not one but two bands with this person? And honestly, and very much piggybacking off of what Joey said, no media outlets reached out to any of these people who have known this person more so and worked with him more on a one-on-one than just about anybody else. You can tour with somebody and maybe you get an idea of who they are, but when you're really getting into the shit with the person, writing a record and really getting to know that person, I think there's a difference there than just what someone might think casually as a quote-unquote friend or acquaintance. And so to me, it was one of those things where I've been wondering that since this happened over a year ago. And for the most part, with the injury to Phil, with and with Philip H Anselmo and the Illegals, putting out a new record, and there's some stuff in there that seemingly addresses some of that stuff head on. Mm-hmm. But then Phil got injured, so he wasn't able to tour, so there wasn't a whole lot of press coming out around then. And same with King Parrot. You know, they've kind of been under wraps a little bit too. So seemingly the whole anyone associated this closely with Phil, no one has either asked the question or no one has thought to ask the question. And to me, that is the more interesting question to ask about it, because it's not the, do you think Phil's a racist? It's like, no. How does the actions of one individual affect the many? Or if they even do.
Right. Well, and, you know, not to jump back to our previous interview that was actually done after the one we're talking about now. That's confusing. You know, like what Joey said was that, you know, you really only have a snippet of what happened. And what you were seeing was somebody that was drunk off their ass very late at night, should not have had a microphone at that point.
That was my biggest
and said some fucked up
too.
shit. And I understand, I judged Phil very harshly on that. You know, like I was one of them. Like you listen to their, you know, their song that was basically about that incident. I'm like, it's almost like they're singing to me and all the shit that I talked on it, you know, like, and you know, I've gone back and forth since that interview on how I feel about it. I'm not 100% one way or the other yet on it, but what I do like about talking to these guys that are a little bit more closely associated with Phil is they're like, you guys are definitely getting the wrong picture. Yeah. Because if Phil was making their lives a living hell and he was really that big of an asshole, he wouldn't have such good friends.
No.
You know, because I know a lot of people, you know them and am not friends with anymore because of shit like that. You know what I mean? You're just hanging out and having a beer one night and guys like, you know what? I think Hitler kind of had a point. Like, you stop hanging out with that dude, you know? And so if that were the case, you know, why would he have such a strong support system, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And, you know, I know I said this, off record, to both Matt and Joey. But, you know, I just want to publicly put it out there. You know, I want to thank them both for actually not dodging the question, not being short with the answers they gave, but really going in and addressing the issue legitimately and honestly. And to me, I think that's really commendable, and I think that speaks to the friendship and the level of care and concern that they have for Phil as a person, not as a boss, not as the performer, but as the friend that they all know. And to me, I think that's what I really took away from both of their answers, was just, like you said, there's the guy that we may think we know based on, you know, people like Rob Flynn and so forth speaking louder than everybody when everyone else is kind of not speaking because they're more worried about the bigger issue at hand.
Yeah, and that's, you know, if he had just basically been like, fuck you, you know, I don't want to answer that question. What are you getting at? What are you trying to say?
Right.
That would have just made it worse. Like that would have just put the final nail in the coffin, you know, so to speak. You would realize that, like, oh shit, this is actually still a hot button issue. But it sounds to me like they're just trying to work through it. They're like, yep, this shit happened, and I'm sorry you feel that way, but here's our new shit. Check it out, you know.
Well, on top of that, I mean, if you've seen the recent photos and live footage of Phil performing, he looks great right now. Like, he looks like a person who has stopped drinking, found purpose again, and is just, I mean, I'm not going to say he's back to, like, 92 Pantera era, like, just shredded Phil, but, I mean, he looks really good, because I saw him in the last couple of years, and I was like, man, what happened? I mean, I get it. Like, I can show you a photo from about 10 years ago, and I have about 70 pounds more on me than I did then. So, I mean, I fucking get it. Shit happens. But the thing is like, it's a little bit different when I guess there's a lot more pressure heaped on you to be a certain thing, or, you know, I don't have people going, like, constantly pulling up photos of me from, you know, my heyday, and people going like, why don't you look and sound like this? And it's like, because I'm older.
Right.
But no, I did like to ask, I enjoyed asking your question. I don't know if I asked it as well as you would have.
I don't know if I would have asked it the way I texted it to you, you know, but you know, it definitely, his answer was interesting. I was like, no, we do this to have fun, and I don't think we do it just to, you know, I guess what I was actually getting at was let's say King Parrot decide, like, let's say they have some kind of horror, like, of course we don't want this to ever happen, but let's say that there's some sort of horrible tragedy where they feel like they need to address it. Maybe it's a personal tragedy or personal feelings or something or other, and they decide to get damn serious about something. I guess the question I was asking is, do you think King Parrot as a band would be able to go in a more serious direction and it be received well by fans? Which is kind of a really weird hypothetical question to ask, but it's always kind of made me wonder with bands that do funny videos like that. They kind of get more well known for being kind of a fun band, and I always wondered, like, well, what happens when a fun band goes serious? Like, what if fucking Bro Job decided one day that they were gonna do a fucking serious song? It's just, I've always been curious as to like how that would go.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think you can look to a band like Killswitch. I think they ride that line very well of being funny performers and being funny people. I mean, look at the video for, I guess even In Due Time, but I was going to say Holy Diver. I mean, that's just a tongue-in-cheek fun video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then if you even go to In Due Time, like, it shows behind-the-scenes stuff and people are laughing and having fun. And, you can tell that these guys enjoy being around each other and joking and shit, but on the same time, like when it comes down to making the music, they're fucking serious as shit, and they can write a serious song like Always, or I mean, honestly, just about anything that they've done. But I mean, I think that's one of the few bands I can think of if you want to look to a typical band that's shows both sides of the spectrum of being funny while also being serious about the music. And I think King Parrot could do it because, like we were saying in the intro, like, Slats is a business person. He's a professional, and all of these guys are professionals, and I think if it really came down to it, they would figure out maybe a way to put their own twist on it, but it would still be undeniably King Parrot at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to just end, to throw end that thought, I think He Is Legend is a good example of that, where
very true,
super fun band, but lyrics are serious, sometimes.
Yes.
they're also a little rapey. A little creepy.
Don't tell Skylar you said that in a couple of weeks.
You should. That's what we said on our original He Is Legend episode. We're like, yeah, they're cool, but their lyrics are kind of rapey.
Well, we're going to kind of get this episode kind of winding down. The chat was kind of long. We like these longer chats, but we like to keep these outros and intros a little bit shorter for you. Be respectful of your time. If you would like to keep up with our show sponsor, The Bean Bastard, you can at thebeanbastard.com. If you would like to keep up with our show sponsor, you can find Moshpit Nation at moshpitnation.com. Facebook at Moshpit Nation West Capital MI. Twitter and Instagram are simply Moshpit Nation. Dan, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan. You can find me on Facebook under Daniel Terry. And you can also send me an email at discussmetaldan@gmail.com.
And if you would like to keep up with our other show sponsor, Good Company with Bowling, that's right, Scott Bowling down there in Atlanta, Georgia, where I may want to move one day and be home with my Atlanta Braves, who are currently in first place. Hallelujah. But Scott Bowling, great dude. Head over to the discography discussion. He was recently at the Rock and Pod Expo, and Dan got to talk to this very visually stunning gentleman. And he has perfectly coiffed hair. I mean, how can you not like that?
We were in the presence of greatness.
You definitely were. But if you'd like to keep up with Scott Bowling, Good Company with Bowling, it is a webcast, visual interview thing with a lot of bands. He said at this point, most of the members of Fozzy, Jose Mangan's coming up, Eddie Trunk, Head from Korn. I mean, just so many great guests. If you are a fan of what we do over here, go over there and watch a real professional do it. You can keep up with them on Facebook at Good Company with Bowling, Instagram at Scott Good Company, or just simply go to the website scottgoodcompany.com and follow the links to get some goodness from Good Company with Bowling. And if you would like to keep up with the podcast, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at John's Untitled Podcast. Tweeted us at John's Untitled Pod, and email us at johnsuntitledpod@gmail.com. And if you would be so kind as to donate monetarily, if that is a thing you would like to do, you can over at patreon.com/John'sUntitledPodcast. We are going to end this episode and actually record another one. I'll give you a clue. We're going over pop songs.
Oh, yes.
And on that note, too, if you would also like to rate, review, and subscribe, we're not going to give you the long shill on that. Just please fucking do it. It greatly helps.
Don't think about it.
Just do it. Yeah, you've seen those Nike memes. That's what we're doing. Instead of some quote, just rate, review, subscribe, Nike swoosh, just do it.
Hashtag JUP.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to end this episode, as we always do, with a song. And as you heard Matt say, he wanted me to play it out to Poison Ideas, Alan's on Fire. So we're going to end it with that, and we will talk to you guys next time.